The NikeSKIMS collaboration officially launched a couple weeks ago, and I would say the reception so far has been muted. And that's not just me being a hater. There's a New York Post article saying, NikeSKIMS launch fizzles in NYC. Kim K collab doesn't draw big crowds or big raves. And it just goes on to talk about how the lines weren't that crazy and it wasn't a big deal. So if you're uninitiated, earlier this year, Nike kind of announced that they were going to be doing this collaboration with Skims, which is Kim Kardashian's shapewear brand, basically. And it was a big deal at the time because a lot of people were putting a lot of stock in the fact that it was like NikeSKIMS, right? It's not Nike X Skims. The logo is like NikeSKIMS. It's like swoosh Skims. So they were obviously elevating. I mean, if you look at their website, it's right up there next to Jordan Brand. That's like the closest parallel I can think of is this level of collaboration with Nike. Something that's fairly unprecedented other than Jordan Brand, which has been around for 40 years. So it's fair to say that Nike's investing a great deal in this. And actually, when they did announce it, there was like a bit of a stock pop. But like I said, I mean, I quoted that New York Post article, but there's not a ton of information yet about how it's doing. There's some buzz on social media, and to be fair, I see some people who are positive about it, some people who are negative. So I think we won't know for a while how it's doing. But I couldn't help but notice when it was announced and seeing the promotional materials for it that it looked kind of familiar. If you're not aware, I'm talking about, of course, Kanye West's collaboration with Adidas, Yeezy season, which is now defunct, but Yeezy, the brand, apart from Adidas, continues to go. And I guess, like I said, it's too soon to tell if NikeSKIMS is going to be a failure. But I did start to think of this in terms of the Yeezy collaboration and the runaway success that they had there. And I guess I asked myself, why is it that no one else can do what Yeezy did? Why is no one else Yeezy? But before I get into it, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. But let's get into it. If you're not familiar with my stance, I made a video about the sort of wasted potential of Kanye West. Yay, if you will. Again, apologize if I dead name him or whatever, but I used to be a huge fan of his and his music. Even like his clothing line I bought a lot. I still have several pairs of Yeezys, but I'm now, I don't want to get into all the political stuff, but let's just say I'm quite disappointed with him in the last couple of years, and I can no longer really support him in the same way. But that's not really what we're talking about today. I think it's undeniable to say that the Yeezy Adidas partnership was a huge moment for fashion and streetwear and sneakers, so much so that Kanye West has defamed himself, and he still has people going crazy to buy his stuff that's ostensibly now just like cheap Chinese produced stuff that'll take a year and a half to get to you. That shows a very dedicated fan base, especially after the last couple of his albums have sucked. Remember when a Kanye album coming out used to be like a big deal? Couldn't care less. So but I was really thinking about this. In fact, I was originally going to make a video about this called something like how Kim Kardashian stole Kanye West's dream or his vision or something. And I didn't mean that in like a clickbaity, like, oh my God, can you believe what Kim Kardashian's doing? I just meant looking at the two, kind of visual campaigns for this. They look very similar. And I think Kim has always kind of benefited from Kanye's creative artistic direction when she was married to him. I think people could say like her fits noticeably got better with his kind of creative eye and him dressing her a little bit. And I think she's learned some lessons from that. But the visual creative direction looks very similar, especially with the earlier seasons of Yeezy. And obviously Kanye always wanted to be partnered with Nike. He kind of settled for Adidas. But, he always wanted a big level of control and stake in his product that he was coming out with. If you watch any of his old interviews, he's around the Yeezus era, he was going crazy, literally trying to get equity in what he was producing. And it seems like Kim has all of that now. So she has the big Nike deal. She has this very powerful position and seeks to gain a lot monetarily from the partnership. And the vision is kind of what it feels like kind of Kanye wanted to be doing. I think right now it's very limited in its scope, but if it were to take off like a rocket ship, I'm sure that she'd be doing, all sorts of product variations. It's too soon to count the chickens, obviously, but I don't think it's setting the world on fire, right? While I'm seeing some generally positive, attitude towards it, I think you'd be seeing a lot more buzz if it was like a Yeezy level partnership. Remains to be seen, but I'm gonna hedge my bets and say that it will not light the world on fire. At least not in the way that Nike hopes. Like I said, they got a stock pop, but Nike really needs a couple wins right now. Their financials have not been doing good. So I think that's actually where a lot of this came from with their strategy. They've been especially trying to court women. Apparently they're not doing super well with women. And if you look at the NikeSKIMS page, again, very prominently featured on their website, they're all about, it's super like women empowerment focused. And if you look at some of like the athletes that they've courted for this, like Serena Williams and Jordan Childs, you know, they've got a ton of athletes signed onto this thing. So it's very like woman empowerment, women focused. Yeah, I'm sure they looked at the market data for who buys Skims, obviously. And that's who they're trying to court with this. So it's got a bit of a niche market, but it's very strategically positioned, whatever. But what I want to propose, I guess, is I don't know what I'm calling this. I'm going to put up a graphic, and it's going to be a triangle, and it's going to have 3 positions that I think are crucial for a successful brand collaboration to the level of this question of why no one else is Yeezy. Okay? Number 1, you need a prominent figure to collaborate with, obviously, who has a rabid and devoted fan base. Kanye West. Can't get much more rabid than that, right? Like I said, I mean, these guys are following to the ends of the earth. They're putting frickin' swastikas on their shirts. And I mean, it makes sense. Kanye is one of the greatest musical producers of all time. I would go so far as to say creative genius, blah, blah, blah. Go watch that Squatter Potential video. So he's got that cornered. And that's honestly, I think we're starting strong with why the Kim K Skims collaboration is not gonna hit. Kim K, she has her fans, but I think not in the same way that Kanye does, right? Obviously. I think Kim gets a lot of, I'm not a Kim hater by any means. I think she has a lot of haters. I guess that's where maybe I'm being contrarian, but I think she's a savvy businesswoman. I understand the criticism. Like whenever you see videos of them, it's like, what do these contribute to society or whatever? Sure, I agree with that, but they know how to make money, okay? So savvy businesswoman, let's give her flowers there. But let's put that aside for now and let's look at the other sides of this little pyramid we're constructing here. It needs actually good product, okay? Good designs. Whatever that is, you know, with what we're talking about today, it's fashion, it's clothing, right? Yeezy had that in spades, at least at the start. I mean, you cannot deny that the 350 was a tremendously huge shoe, to the point that I still see people rocking them all the time. Doesn't matter what Kanye has said and done, people loved and love 350s. Same with like the Wave Runner. I would put the Wave Runner, the Yeezy 700 among one of the best design shoes of all time. Steven Smith designed it. He knows what he's doing, okay? And I mean, people still fiend for the 750s and the 950s, the 1050s. I wanted a pair of 1050s. They never officially released them. Bunch of BS in my opinion. But you know, the 500s, people love these silhouettes and they still rock them to this day. The Yeezy Slides, Yeezy Foam Runners, classics. So undeniable to say that the product was there. Less so for his clothes, but I actually think, dare I say it, Kanye was ahead of his time. I think a lot of brands now are copying a lot of the aesthetics of what he did then. See NikeSKIMS and their aesthetic looking kind of similar in my opinion, less distressing and crazy apocalyptic vibes, but whatever. So I think that's where NikeSKIMS is actually probably pretty good. I mean, I watched a couple people like talking about stuff and they seemed a little like wishy-washy, but you know, Nike makes good stuff. They have some of the best, you know, athletics research teams on the planet. I'm sure they're great. Skims seems to be a product that people generally like from the shapewear side. So I think they're good there. But again, with this triangle, you need all 3. And then finally, price and marketing is the third kind of pillar I would put up here. And I lump them the same because pricing is part of marketing, right? It's your go-to market proposal. You know, funnily enough, I don't think anybody markets better than Nike. Their marketing campaigns are, I mean, just do it. You know, amazing campaigns that have stood the test of time. The videos that they've put out for like NikeSKIMS are great. You can go watch them. They're super well produced. And in terms of, again, marketing, signing these other athletes and you know, having them be spokespeople and things like that, it's all, you know, it's great. So they've got that nailed down as well. Price-wise, to be honest with you, I haven't really looked it up much, but I haven't seen like grumbles about it. So I'm guessing it's priced well as well. Now, if you look at Yeezy, I actually don't think marketing in the traditional sense was really a huge part of it. Kanye was such a big personality that he kind of was the marketing. Like, just him wearing a pair of like turtle doves to a concert was like, that's all the marketing they needed, right? But pricing was a big part of that. And I think they perfectly threaded that needle of like, this stuff is expensive, but people can still afford it. Also, it was so limited release that it like drove the hype cycle. So that's a big part of marketing and pricing too, right? You got to be able to thread that needle of exclusivity. And it's funny how once the partnership ended, you saw just how many back pairs that they were kind of holding in reserve, because all of a sudden all these pairs flooded the market. It's like, where'd you guys have these the whole time, huh? Artificial scarcity, don't we love it? Apparently so. So why do I bring this up? Well, I'm comparing these two launches, right? And trying to see like why this is failing. Obviously I said failing. I'm already putting it into the grave. Why it's not hitting the same way that the Yeezy partnership did. Again, I think that's fair to say. We'll see how it plays out. But this is not the only one of these collaborations, partnerships that we've seen, obviously. In fact, there's a number of them that are still going today. And I kind of wanted to take a look at some of them and compare them against this little visual I've created. Another one I was looking up, and I've talked about it very briefly, but Adidas Fear of God, or Fear of God Athletics, whatever. If you don't know, Jerry Lorenzo, Fear of God, Essentials, very popular brand, a streetwear brand. I mean, you see people wearing Essential stuff all the time. And when Fear of God, Jerry Lorenzo was working with Nike, again, much like Kanye, moved over to Adidas, I thought it was going to be huge. And they took a really long time to like release product, and I would say too long. Again, marketing, it's got to be right. Jerry Lorenzo, he has like a big fan base. Obviously, anyone that we talk about here is not going to be as big of a fan base as Kanye. That's just a foregone conclusion. But enough of a fan base, at least for streetwear enthusiasts and the people that they're going for, that I think that was a pretty good place to go there with the collaboration. The product itself, pretty good, I think. The one area where I think it fell down a little bit was, for me anyways, was the shoes. He does a very like minimalist thing. They just didn't look, man, they just don't hit as much as the Nikes. It's kind of similar to like when Kanye went from Nike to Adidas. Actually, I still thought that the Nikes were hitting. It's a different vibe, it's a different aesthetic, but Adidas is much more subdued, and I just think they just weren't hitting. You don't see it in the resale in the same way. So product design, but in terms of like the clothing and stuff, pretty good. I like the stuff. It looks nice. I don't know that I want to work out in it, but at least the product photography and stuff, it all looked cool. Where I really think this collaboration fell down was, again, that third tier, marketing, pricing. The pricing was absurd for the clothes. It just, for workout clothes especially, Fear of God Athletics. And also, we talk about the long wait time for this stuff. It just completely fell flat at that point. It was already dead in the water before it arrived. So two weaknesses: shoe design, a little bit in the marketing, pricing particularly. And I think, it's been like a 3-year partnership. I just read a thing that Adidas is not going to continue this partnership. And you don't really see anyone talking about it or whatever. So it's just like this big thing that could have been a big deal. I'm pretty sure Jerry Lorenzo got a 3 stripes tattooed on his neck. I'm gonna want to laser that one off, buddy. And kind of big in the news right now. So let me approach this a slightly different direction. There's a couple more examples of this type of relationship I can think of, but let me talk about a fresh one first. Jaden Smith being selected as the creative director for Christian Louboutin men's. First men's one I think they've ever had. I made a little YouTube shorts about this, but essentially, it's nepotism, obviously. The Smith kids have had silver spoons in their mouth from the day they were born. But also, he's done some like partnerships or little design things here and there. But like a brand like Louboutin going to Jaden Smith for creative direction is insane. And like, especially in a climate where people are like, give young designers a chance. And like, they're only promoting people who have been in the industry for X many years, or big, like kind of famous people or influencer types like Jaden Smith. It just feels incredibly tone deaf and a little stupid, and like, I don't know, the spray painting himself with the red, it all just seems a little goofy, Let's see what he comes out with. I'm very excited, but like, it just does not seem, it seems desperate, it seems crappy to be going with him, completely unproven, and just like it's like a mockery, I feel like. But this does highlight something else, so I'm gonna touch on a couple of these other partnerships that I think are in this realm, that I think are similar sort of collaborations, or just assigning a creative director role to something. So recently, Pharrell Williams to Louis Vuitton. You know, kind of celebrity status, musician, something like that. To a lesser extent on the fame side of things, but related to Yeezy. And before him, Virgil Abloh, creative director of Louis Vuitton. Not to be too, like, aggressive in my language, but sometimes it feels a little racist to me. Just in terms of, like, you know, we got these old rich white dudes sitting in a room being like, we gotta get some young hip hop style cool guy to be our figurehead in this thing. So find a musician like Kanye West, like Jaden Smith, like Pharrell Williams, some young cool hip black musician, right? Like they're like stealing blackness from the urban, like, streetwear community to give some sort of, like, legitimacy to their old stodgy brand or whatever. And that feels like exactly what's going on with Jaden Smith, like in a completely unfiltered way, right? If you see it differently, that's cool. Like I said, I can be a little too cynical sometimes. That's just kind of what it seems like to me. And that's not to take away anything from what those guys have done, because actually, I mean, Virgil Abloh, I think, like, come on. I mean, like, people, obviously he passed away, but, like, people have now, I think, given him the props that he deserves in what he did for Louis Vuitton. And, you know, a lot of people are a little more wishy-washy on Pharrell. I actually think he's done great. Like, I've been way more interested in Louis Vuitton than, like, I was before. You know, from the, it's not a collaboration in the same sense that we're talking about it, but, like, the product and design have actually been fantastic in my opinion. So poking a little more fun at the Jaden thing. But again, you look at what Nike has done with Skims, to get back to that. And no, Kim Kardashian is not a young black woman, but she is non-white, whatever. Again, it's kind of a cynical mindset, I feel like, of like, we are gonna target this group. And they are using, like, again, Serena Williams or whatever, or Jordan Childs, and, like, women, you know, we're going to really hyper-focus on women to try and target that demo market. I think that's inarguable to say that that's what they're doing, if you look at the marketing and everything. I think they would admit that themselves. I'm sure they have in some press release. It's all a calculation, right, doing these collaborations. And so they say, okay, and it just so happens that Kim K has a shapewear line that they can piggyback onto. So it makes perfect sense from a business standpoint. Okay, we got Kim Kardashian. She sensibly has a fan base. She has this shapewear line. We can bring her in. The product is good. The marketing's there. The pricing is right. Boom, we're good. Where I think the misstep is that, does Kim K really have a fan base? Not in the same way that, like, Ye does, you know, or Pharrell or whatever, you know, or Jerry Lorenzo or any of these guys. So it's not lost on me. Again, I'm not a Kim K hater, but it is kind of funny that, like, these guys have this, like, big careers that they built up over time, and, like, you know, they're focusing on women. What is Kim K most famous for? I'm not going to say it. You can fill in that blank. It's a little ironic. So all this is to say, I don't think it's going to light the world on fire. And what's funny among all this is, again, if you look at that, where NikeSKIMS is positioned on their website, what is it right next to? I would say the closest parallel I can think to all this, and to a Yeezy-esque successful collaboration, Jordan brand. Again, to go back to our little triangle that we've come up with. Hugely successful icon, fan base, devoted superstar in Michael Jordan, right? Generational talent. The product, some of the best sneakers designed of all time. I mean, it's inarguable. Jordan 1s, Jordan 3s, Jordan 4s. Just timeless silhouettes that people can't get enough of 30, 40 years later. And then, I mean, pricing and marketing. The marketing, I mean, you got Spike Lee commercials, Jordan himself crushing it every night wearing the sneakers, priced affordably that, like, kids could get them. Like, it was the model from which all this other stuff is based, I think. Even Yeezy. So while I'm comparing everything to Yeezy, really it all starts with Jordan. And I think that is the template by which Nike and all these other brands have come to base all this off of, right? Again, say what you will about whether this is a little shady from a racial politics standpoint, but, like, we've got a young black talent that our old white brand is going to co-opt to buy in the culture, right? The streetwear culture, and kind of use their image to sell our stuff. And so cynically, I keep seeing this process repeating itself. Jaden Smith just happens to be the most hilarious, possibly failed attempt at it. Will we ever see Yeezy level again, I mean, you know, time will tell. I'm trying to think of who I would like pinpoint to be this collaborator. It's also funny because Kanye himself has commented on these kinds of like silly collaborations, like with the Gaga. I like some of the Gaga songs. What the fuck does she know about cameras? It remains to be seen if NikeSKIMS will be an everlasting partnership. I saw some rumor mill stuff saying like Kim was already getting cold feet and wanted to pull out. I shouldn't even say it because there's no way to substantiate it. And financial data, like I said, this came out like a couple weeks ago. It'll probably be months till we actually see anything about how the numbers are actually doing. But the New York Post article does give me pause a little bit. So again, it all just comes back to the failed potential of Yeezy season and where that could have gone. But hey, he's still giving it the old college try. We'll see if y'all get your shipments in. I've seen some people get their slides, so the hope is alive. What do you guys think? Am I a little off base here? You know, I don't think it's beyond the pale to say that these collaborations are cynical cash grabs. Obviously, obviously they are. These are publicly traded companies. But do you think there's something a little like problematic in the way that they're structured? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this kind of video, do subscribe. What do you think about Kim K and NikeSKIMS? You think it's gonna pull it off? Knock it out of the park? Leave a like if you get a chance. Leave a comment, and I'll catch you in the next video. See you later, guys.